Hello students, in the last class we learned about the introductory concepts of the chemistry. We have defined chemistry as the branch of science which deals with composition, structure, properties and interaction of matter. Then we define what we mean by matter, and we have seen various applications of the chemistry in various fields, and we appreciated its importance in our daily life. After that we started classifying the matter. We classified matter broadly on the basis of physical states and the chemical composition. In physical states, we classified the matter into solid state, liquid state and the gaseous state. And we have seen the differences in the arrangement of particles, differences in the forces and differences in various physical properties. So that part we have completed. Now today we will go to the next part of the classification of matter, and that is based on chemical composition. So classification of matter based on chemical composition. So one scientist, Lavoisier, who is believed to be the father of modern chemistry, a French scientist, he tried to classify matter on the basis of chemical composition. He has taken the oxide of mercury, which is in solid state, and he heated it at very high temperature. It decomposes and we get mercury and the oxygen. Then he said, if we classify the matter based on chemical composition, we come across these two types of substances. What is the difference, basic difference in these two types of substances? He said that this mercury and oxygen, these are simpler substances. He used the word simpler substances. Now why he assigned name simpler substance to them? Because these cannot be, this type of substance cannot be formed from simpler substance. Means again we will not get mercury from another substance which is simpler. We will see what we mean by simpler here. Or it cannot be broken into simpler substance. Cannot be broken into simpler substance. So he said there are certain species, the chemical nature is such that those chemical substances cannot be formed from simpler substance or cannot be broken into simpler substance. Whereas this type of substances like oxide of mercury, we can say this can be, here we said cannot be, but this type of substances can be formed from simpler substances. Simpler substances. For example, oxide of mercury can be formed by a combination of mercury and oxygen. Or they can be broken into simpler substance. Just the chemical reaction indicates that it has been broken into simpler substance. he called this type of substance, which can be formed from simpler substance or broken into simpler substance, as compound. And these simpler substances, which cannot be formed from simpler substance or which cannot be broken into simpler substance, he called such substance as elements. So he said that these compounds and elements, they are the types of pure substances. So how you define initially? Compounds, pure substance formed from simpler substance or can be broken into simpler substance, and elements are pure substance which cannot be formed from simpler substance or which cannot be broken into simpler substance. That was his initial understanding of this type of substance. But when nuclear radioactivity this phenomenon was discovered, then we come across many types of reactions, nuclear reactions we call them, like nitrogen is treated with the alpha particle, which is helium nucleus, and we get oxygen and hydrogen. This is 7, this is 2, this is 1, this is 8, this is 14. These are the mass numbers, these are the atomic numbers you learn in structure of atom. 4, 1, and this is 17. But all these nitrogen, helium, oxygen and hydrogen, these are all elements. Why they are elements? According to Lavoisier, they are simpler substance. We cannot form them from another simpler substance, or we cannot break them into still further into simpler substance. But here the simpler substance are being broken down into another simpler substance, and simpler substance are formed from another simpler substance. So this definition becomes invalid when nuclear radioactivity phenomenon is discovered. So he changed, or scientists changed this definition of element, and now we can say that the most accepted definition of the element is, these are the, how we can say, elements is pure substances made up of only one kind or one type of atoms. Yes, now there is no exception to this definition, because oxygen is made up of one type of atoms having atomic number 8. Hydrogen is made up of type of atoms having atomic number 1, means 1 proton, 1 electron, 2 proton, 2 neutron, and 7 proton, 7 neutron. So we are defining now elements. This is the most recent definition, that these are the pure substance which are made up of only one kind of atoms. That's how the elements are being defined. Now when we look into the elements, there are 118 elements. You have learned this in classification of elements in school level also. You heard about this number 118. 92 are naturally occurring, and remaining they are artificially prepared by the phenomenon of nuclear reactions. And these elements, they combine together in the various ways and they forms the compounds. So first we look into the elements, and these elements, gold, silver, platinum, carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, selenium, tellurium, polonium. These are the different types of the elements. Their properties are different. For example, there are one type of elements which are very hard, which has shining on them, which shines, which are malleable. Malleable means if this block of metal is there and if we apply force on it, it flattens it. Brittle into thin sheets. Malleable. These are ductile. Ductile means if we have one piece of metal, we can draw a long wire out of it. Ductility. And which are good conductors of heat and electricity. Good conductors of heat and electricity. Apart from that, there are certain elements which has property exactly opposite to this. For example, these are carbon, sulfur, phosphorus. These are soft elements. Of course, there is exception of diamond, which is a drop of carbon, very hard. But generally, the non-metals are soft. There is no luster on them. They are not malleable, they are not ductile, and they are very poor conductors of heat and electricity. So exactly opposite properties of this type of substances. So those which are hard, lustrous, malleable, ductile, good conductors of heat and electricity, they call them as metals. So metals are nothing but the elements having these sets of properties. And this type of carbon, sulfur, phosphorus which has properties which are opposite to that of metal, they are called as non-metals. And these other very few in number, but they have properties which is common to metals and non-metals. And they call it as metalloids, or another name is semi-metals. So elements are further classified based on their properties as metals, non-metals, and metalloids are also called as semi-metals. Few examples I have given here. As you learn chemistry, more and more example you are able to identify in this. Now these elements either metals or non-metals or semi-metals, they combine together in a chemical reaction and they form another type of pure substance, and we call them as the compounds. So these elements they chemically combine and they form compounds. We have 118 elements, but we have millions of compounds. It is just like we have 26 alphabets, but we have millions of words, because these just alphabets arranged in different combination and we get different words. Similarly, these elements arranged in a certain fashion certain way and we get the compounds. So compounds are formed by the combination, chemical combination of the elements. So there are certain properties of the compounds. We'll learn them so that we can distinguish. When substance is before us, we should know what type of class that substance belongs to. So these compounds, we write few characteristics here which already you know, but just kind of revision for us. The constituents, for example H2O is a compound. Constituents are, means from which it is made up of, are either two or more elements. So compounds are pure substance in which constituents are two or more elements. If you take glucose C6H12O6, two or more elements are present in a compound. Then these constituents are chemically combined. They are combined by chemical reaction. The chemical change occurs when elements combines and form a compound. These constituents cannot be separated by physical methods. We just cannot filter the H2O and we cannot get hydrogen and oxygen out of it. If we are able to do that, our whole energy requirement would have been solved. We would have a very energy rich species, isn't it? Because hydrogen is very important source of energy, but we cannot do that just by physical methods. Then we can say these constituents, they are combined in fixed ratio of mass. For example, the hydrogen has atomic mass 1 AMU, oxygen has 16. So there are two hydrogens, so we have 1 plus 1, 2. And we can simplify this ratio. And we can write 1:8. 2 divided by 2, 1. 16 divided by 2, 8. Like that. So they are combined in fixed ratio of mass in them. Then properties of compounds are different than properties of constituents. For example, hydrogen burns, oxygen helps in burning. In H2O, it extinguishes the fire. So the property of hydrogen different than oxygen, and property of H2O is different than hydrogen and as well as from the oxygen. Then we can say that formation involves energy changes. When H2O is formed, energy changes occurs in the form of heat, light, because chemical reaction is taking place which is accompanied by the energy changes. It has sharp melting point and boiling point. If we consider the mixtures, they won't have sharp melting point and boiling point, but compounds has that. And we can say they are always homogeneous. Means if we take H2O in this beaker, the composition is uniform. If you take one drop from this side or this side, the composition is same. We get same mass ratio, 1:8, either from this side water or this side water, because they are always homogeneous, same properties and same substance is present throughout. There is no distinction. Hydrogen and oxygen, they are so homogeneously combined that only one substance is appear to be present. So these are the sets of properties in the compounds. Then these compounds, which are millions in number, they have been further classified based on their source. If the source is of living organism, and if the source of compound is from rocks and minerals, means non-living, we call these compounds as organic compounds, which are sourced in plants and animals, and these compounds we call it as inorganic. Of course, the definition of organic have been modified now. We call organic compounds are those which are hydrocarbon or their derivatives, but the word organic is related to the living organism. Now another type of substance which is not pure substance is a mixture. What are the properties of mixture? I will just explain and you can make your own notes. Type of homework I am giving to you, because just these properties we have to change and we get the mixture. The compound has constituents 2 or more elements. Mixture has constituents 2 or more elements or 2 or more compounds. You are understanding this? The mixture has constituents, means mixtures are made up of 2 or more elements or 2 or more compounds. Constituents are not chemically combined, they just mix together physically. Constituents can be separated by physical methods. Salt in water, increase the temperature, water evaporates and we get the salt crystals, separation. Oil and water, separating funnel, difference in density, oil and water can be separated. Constituents are not combined in the fixed ratio of mass because there is no chemical reaction taking place. Properties are similar. Properties of mixture are similar to the properties of constituents. If we have carbon powder and iron powder, and if we put magnet, iron particles get attracted towards it. Magnetic separation, we call it. So properties are similar. Properties of mixture are similar to the properties of constituents. Formation does not involve any energy changes because no chemical reaction has taken place. It does not have sharp melting point or boiling point because it is not pure substance. And it may be homogeneous like salt in water, or it may be heterogeneous like oil in water. Homogeneous mixtures are also called as solutions, and if the composition is different, if 2 different components are seen, we call it as the heterogeneous mixture. Which type of mixture air is? Air is homogeneous mixture of gases, right? So you all know this, that's why I have not written the properties of the mixture, but as you have written the properties of compound, you just change appropriately and note down the properties of mixture, right? So what we are getting after this classification? After this classification we have one map, and using that map we can enter into this wonderful land of chemistry. The map is needed, otherwise we are lost in this very wonderful jungle of chemistry, world of chemistry. So what type of map we are talking about? The map is this classification. When you learn chemistry, it is nothing but you are learning this classification in detail, various aspects of this classification. We just draw this type of classification scheme. The matter, which is the main part we learn in chemistry. The physical state classified according to physical state, classified according to chemical composition, and this physical state, it can be solid, liquid or gases, which we have learned in the last class. The chemical composition, the matter can be either pure substance or it can be a mixture. Pure substance, again classified, made up of only one kind of atoms, elements, formed by chemical combination of elements in the fixed ratio of mass. Elements further classified into metals, non-metals and metalloids. The compounds can be classified into organic and inorganic, and the mixtures can be either homogeneous or it can be heterogeneous. Right. So when you learn chemistry, either you learn various physical states or various aspects of this chemical composition. So this is the map. We are taking this map and we are entering into the world of chemistry. Right, very surprising things you will come across. As I already told you, patience is needed because you make one statement and there will be exceptions. Lots of things are to be remembered, understood, recalled and used in a proper way. So it is just start. You will come to know what we are learning, where we are getting into. So this is the classification of matter I have explained. And now the next part is properties of matter and their measurement. Properties of matter and their measurement. So this is one part. First we will see and then how they are to be measured. So these properties, we can say there are two types. One type of properties we call it as physical properties. And another type of properties we call it as chemical properties. Now, which are physical properties and which are chemical properties? Physical properties are those which are studied without change in chemical composition of that substance. For example, in the beaker we have taken this substance. Again, I will give you the example of water. And if you want to know properties of water, there are some properties which can be studied just without change into identity of water. We call them as physical properties. Example is color. No need to change the chemical composition, no need to change identity, no need of chemical reaction. Color, odor, density, melting point, boiling point. These are properties, we call them as physical. But chemical properties are those which are studied by the change in identity or composition of the substance. For example, you want to know the reactivity of it. There is no way we can identify reactivity without changing composition. We have to react with some substance, and in that process the chemical identity of water gets changed. So reactivity is a chemical property. Or acidity, we want to know whether water releases H plus ion easily or not. Basicity, neutrality, or the various displacement reactions, various combustion reaction, they all are studied with the change in identity, and that's why that comes under the chemical properties. And this color, odor, smell, density, melting point, boiling point, without changing chemical composition, that's why we call them as the physical properties. So properties of matter, there are some properties which are physical and there are some properties which are chemical. Now, how they are to be measured? How they are to be measured? As chemistry and all basically sciences are experimental sciences, we need measurement in the laboratory, in the experiment. So in this measurement we need physical quantity. When measurements are done, the results are reported in the form of physical quantity. Now, what we mean by this physical quantity and what are the components of physical quantity? We'll take one simple example. This is the piece of paper, and we want to know its length. It is not enough to say that the paper is small and paper is large. That doesn't make any sense in science, in measurement. So for that we need instrument. Centimeter scale is the instrument. This type of scale which we use in your compass box can be used here. What is to be done? Carefully the scale has to be arranged along the side of this paper, and these markings are seen carefully. So the length of this paper is 12.6 centimeter. This reading is 12.6 centimeter. So this physical quantity has two aspects. One is this numerical coefficient, and another this, which we call it as unit, a standard reference. We use it. So how these measurements are done? Measurements are done in comparison with some standard reference, which we call it as unit. Now, what is the meaning of length is 12.61 centimeter? We can say that length of paper is 12.6 times longer than 1 centimeter length. It means paper is 12.6 times longer than 1 centimeter, because this can be splitted, multiplied by 1 means the number will remain same. So we have 1 centimeter and this is 12.6 times longer. So this is the way in which measurement is done. We have some fixed standard reference and we are comparing the measured quantity with it, and we are comparing it and reporting our result in the form of physical quantity, which has numerical coefficient and the unit. You understand this very basic things, but exactly these things we do when we do the experiment. Now what is the unit then? Unit is a standard reference which is selected to measure the physical quantity. Right. Now what type of standard reference units we have to use? There are various units. Some we call them as fundamental physical quantity, and that's why these are fundamental units. And some we call them as derived physical quantity, and that's why derived units. There are various systems of measurement throughout the history of mankind, but we are using SI system in our measurement. And in the SI system of measurement, of course this table is also known to you. Some part initial, some 3-4 lectures are kind of repetition for you, but you listen carefully because questions can be asked also on this part. So we have this physical quantity and the name of unit we use for it, and the symbol of unit. So there are 7 basic units or basic properties. The first is mass. The unit is kilogram and it is kg. Next is the length. Unit is meter. This is m. Then comes time. The unit is second. Yes is the symbol of that. Then fourth comes, we call it as thermodynamic temperature. Kelvin is the name of unit. capital K is the symbol of it. Then comes electric current, ampere, is the symbol for it. Then comes luminous intensity, radiation, for radiation is used. Candela, CD. And 7, which is very unique in chemistry, amount of substance. The unit is mole and the symbol is MOL, like this. So these are the 7 basic physical quantities, the names of units and their symbols. We'll see the significance of it and various derived units. But before that, we should mention that these units are not sufficient. For example, we have 1 meter cloth and we have divided it into 100 parts of it. We can write 10 raised to minus 2. 1 by 100 is equal to 10 raised to minus 2. 1 into meter. 1 into 10 raised to minus 2 into meter. Meter is no doubt SI unit, but this for minus 2 we can have a prefix. We call it as centi. So 1 into centi into meter, which is nothing but 1 centimeter, which is the 100th part of 1 meter. So we are using the prefixes to it, because always meter unit is not suitable in chemistry. Particularly we are dealing sometimes with very small numbers and sometimes with very large quantities. So these units are to be prefixed. For example, we have 1000 gram. We should write this as 1000 into 1 into gram. 1 into 1000 into gram. 1 into, for this 1000, we can write kilo. I write that first gram. One kilogram is equal to, we say 1000 gram, like that. So prefixes are to be used before the units. So they can be very large or they can be very small. We'll make one table. In the next class and identify how they are to be used. So in this particular class, we have classified matter based on chemical composition. We have defined element, compound, properties of compounds. Properties of mixture you have to write yourself. I have not written on the board, I have just only explained. And then properties, physical, chemical, measurement, physical quantity, numerical coefficient, unit, SI unit, and the basic quantities. More than enough. If you understand this, then slowly we will go ahead by understanding this concept, because they are very basic concepts, and if you understood them, you can use them. 2 years PUC first year and second year is related. So very important topic, and you have to understand its importance. Thank you for watching this video.